The Last Stand. In the year 2204, humanity had spread across the stars, creating colonies on distant worlds and thriving under the banner of unity and progress. But this era of prosperity was abruptly shattered when the Andorians, a ruthless alien race known for their savage conquests, set their sights on Earth's outer colonies. The Andorians struck with unparalleled ferocity, using their advanced technology and overwhelming numbers to decimate human settlements across the galaxy. One such colony was New Arcadia, a vibrant world teeming with life and promise. Its once bustling cities now lay in ruin, a testament to the Andorian invasion. The skies were darkened with smoke, and the air was heavy with the acrid scent of destruction. Amidst the chaos, one man, Commander Nathaniel Drake, was determined to lead a final defense. He had seen his comrades fall, his friends perish, and now he faced the final, desperate battle. Drake, a seasoned soldier with countless campaigns under his belt, gathered the remaining defenders in what used to be the command center of New Arcadia's military base. The room was eerily quiet, save for the distant rumble of Andorian warships and the occasional crackle of static from broken communication devices. The remaining soldiers, faces etched with grim determination, looked to Drake for leadership. "We've held them off as long as we could," Drake said, his voice steady despite the grim situation. "But this is it. We've got one chance to make a stand and buy time for the civilians to evacuate. We either fight here or die here. Either way, we make sure they don't get through without a fight." The soldiers nodded, their expressions hardening with resolve. They knew the Andorians had no mercy, and they knew their chances of survival were slim, but the thought of letting their home fall without a struggle was unacceptable. As the defenders took their positions, Drake's mind raced with strategies and contingencies. The Andorians were known for their overwhelming firepower and ruthless tactics. But Drake had a plan that involved luring the Andorian forces into a trap and then making a desperate bid to slow them down. The first wave of Andorian troops stormed the base, their plasma rifles sizzling with deadly energy. The defenders fought with everything they had, their weapons roaring in defiance. Drake's strategy worked initially. The Andorians were funneled into a narrow corridor where they faced a deadly crossfire. But the Andorian commanders were no fools. They quickly adapted, deploying their own elite troops to counter the human defenses. Drake's heart pounded as he fought. His mind was a whirlwind of tactics and memories, flashes of his family, his home, and his duty. He could see his soldiers falling, one by one, their bodies crumpling under the relentless assault. The Andorians pressed on, their advance unstoppable. Despite the valiant efforts of the defenders, the base's defenses were breached, and the Andorians began to push deeper into the colony. Amidst the chaos, Drake received a transmission from the civilian evacuation ships. The last transport was ready to depart, but it was under attack. He knew that if the transport was lost, all hope for the colony would be extinguished. He made a decision. He would lead a team to protect the transport and ensure its safe departure. As Drake and his team fought their way through the ruins of New Arcadia, they encountered fierce resistance. The Andorians were relentless, and every step forward was hard-won, but Drake's determination was unwavering. He knew that the survival of the colony depended on their success. Finally, they reached the transport, which was engaged in a desperate battle with Andorian forces. The sight of the transport, struggling against the onslaught, spurred Drake and his team into action. With a combination of precision fire and sheer willpower, they fought off the Andorians, creating a temporary lull in the battle. The transport's engines roared to life, and it began its ascent into space. Drake watched as the transport, with the last of New Arcadia's civilians, broke through the atmosphere and into the void of space. His relief was short-lived, as the Andorians' final assault on the base intensified. He knew that his time was running out. With a final fierce battle cry, he led his remaining soldiers in one last stand against the Andorian forces. As the base fell into chaos, Drake's thoughts were with his people, his comrades, and the home he was about to leave behind. He fought with everything he had, knowing that this battle was not just for survival, but for the legacy of humanity. And as the Andorians overwhelmed the base, Drake's last thoughts were of the hope that his sacrifice had bought the civilians the time they needed to escape. The Awakening. The ruins of New Arcadia lay silent as the Andorians moved through the remnants of their victory. The alien conquerors were methodical in their search, determined to ensure that no humans survived. Little did they know that within the desolate landscape, hidden deep beneath the wreckage, lay the key to humanity's survival. In the heart of the shattered base, a cryo chamber, one of the last-ditch efforts of the defenders, remained concealed. It was designed to protect a handful of humans in the event of a catastrophic attack. The chamber had remained undetected, its occupants frozen in time, unaware of the devastation that had befallen their world. Inside the chamber, Terry Holmes, a skilled engineer and one of the last surviving members of New Arcadia's defense team, lay in suspended animation. For years he had been in cryo-sleep, his body preserved in a state of suspended animation. The cryo chamber was a relic of a bygone era, its technology outdated but still functional. As the centuries passed, the Andorians continued their reign of terror across the galaxy, crushing resistance and expanding their empire. They had all but forgotten about the humans who had vanished into the cryo chambers, believing them to be extinct. But on this day, something extraordinary happened. A malfunction in the cryo chamber systems triggered a revival sequence. The chamber systems hummed to life, and Terry's frozen form began to stir. The hiss of escaping gas and the soft whir of machinery signaled the end of his long slumber. Terry awoke with a start, disoriented and groggy. His body ached as he struggled to adjust to the unfamiliar sensations. The chamber's hatch opened with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a world that had changed beyond recognition. He blinked against the harsh light, trying to make sense of his surroundings. The cryo facility, once a state-of-the-art refuge, was now a shadow of its former self. The corridors were dark and filled with debris. The walls, once pristine, were now covered in grime and dust. The facility had been abandoned for centuries, and Terry was the only living soul within its walls. As Terry stumbled through the facility, his mind raced with questions. What had happened to his home? What had become of the Andorians? Why was he the only one left? He felt a pang of loneliness as he realized the enormity of his situation. He was the last of his kind, the sole survivor of a once thriving civilization. With a mix of dread and determination, Terry made his way to the facility's control room. The screens flickered to life as he activated the main console. The data that scrolled across the screen revealed a grim picture of the galaxy, a galaxy under Andorian rule. The records showed the Andorians' relentless expansion, their brutal suppression of any resistance, and their systematic extermination of human colonies. Terry's heart sank as he read about the fall of New Arcadia and the loss of countless other worlds. The Andorians had achieved their goal. Humanity was on the brink of extinction. But amidst the grim news, there was a glimmer of hope. The records included data on other cryo facilities scattered across the galaxy. Terry realized that he was not alone. There were other survivors out there, hidden away in forgotten corners of space. If he could find them, there might still be a chance to rebuild. With renewed determination, Terry began to prepare for his journey. He scoured the facility for supplies and equipment, gathering everything he would need to navigate the void. The ancient spacecraft, a relic of a bygone era, stood as a beacon of hope. It was battered and scorched, but still intact. As Terry made his way to the spacecraft, he couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. The Andorians were still out there, and they would not rest until they had eradicated every last trace of humanity. He had to act quickly and find the other cryo facilities before it was too late. With a final glance at the desolate ruins of New Arcadia, Terry climbed aboard the spacecraft. He powered up the engines, the old systems creaking and groaning as they came to life. The ship's controls were unfamiliar, but Terry's engineering skills allowed him to navigate the ancient technology. As the spacecraft lifted off, Terry felt a mixture of hope and trepidation. He was embarking on a journey into the unknown, but he knew that he had to try. The fate of humanity depended on his success. The search begins. The spacecraft hurtled through the void, its engines roaring as it escaped the remnants of New Arcadia. Terry Holmes, now alone in the vast expanse of space, faced the daunting task of finding the scattered cryo facilities. The ancient star maps he had discovered showed their locations, but the journey ahead was fraught with danger. The galaxy was a harsh and unforgiving place, and Terry's ship was not equipped for long-term travel. The supplies he had salvaged from New Arcadia's facility were limited, and the spacecraft's systems were outdated. Yet, with his engineering expertise and resourcefulness, he made the best of the situation. The first leg of his journey took him to a remote outpost on the fringes of Andorian-controlled space. The outpost was abandoned, its structures overgrown with alien vegetation. Terry approached with caution, knowing that any sign of activity could attract unwanted attention. Inside the outpost, he found evidence of recent activity. The systems had been tampered with, and there were signs of recent habitation. It was clear that the Andorians had been here, searching for something. Terry's heart raced as he wondered if they had been looking for the same cryo facilities he was. He sifted through the data logs and communications, trying to piece together the puzzle. The logs revealed that the Andorians had been conducting systematic sweeps of the galaxy, searching for any remaining human settlements or cryo facilities. Their search was relentless, and it was only a matter of time before they would discover any hidden refuges. Terry knew he had to move quickly. He collected what supplies he could from the outpost and set course for the next location on the star map. The journey took him through treacherous regions of space, including asteroid fields and hazardous nebulae. Each challenge tested his skills and resolve, but he remained focused on his mission. As he approached the next cryo facility, Terry's anticipation grew. The facility was located on a desolate moon, far from any major star systems. It was an old outpost, abandoned for centuries, but it had the potential to house survivors. He hoped that this facility would hold the key to locating other cryo chambers and reviving the remnants of humanity. The spacecraft landed on the moon's surface, and Terry made his way to the facility. The entrance was sealed, but his engineering skills allowed him to bypass the security systems. Inside, the facility was eerily quiet, its corridors lined with dormant cryo chambers. Terry's heart skipped a beat as he approached the first chamber. He could see the frozen forms of humans, preserved in their slumber. He began the process of awakening them, carefully monitoring the cryo systems as they came online. One by one, the chambers hissed open, and the survivors began to stir. Among the awakened was Dr. Emily Carter, a scientist who had been a key figure in the development of the cryo technology. She was disoriented, but quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. Terry explained the fall of humanity and the ongoing search for other cryo facilities. Dr. Carter, along with the other survivors, joined Terry in his quest. They began to formulate a plan to find and revive additional cryo facilities, using the knowledge and resources they had. Their numbers were small, but their determination was unwavering. With a renewed sense of purpose, Terry and his team set out to explore the galaxy. They navigated through Andorian-controlled regions, avoiding detection while searching for signs of other cryo chambers. Each discovery brought them closer to rebuilding humanity's presence in the galaxy. Unlikely allies. As Terry and his team continued their search for cryo facilities, they encountered a series of challenges. The galaxy was rife with danger, and the Andorians were ever vigilant in their pursuit of the remaining humans. But amidst the darkness, they discovered an unexpected ally. During one of their forays into a heavily patrolled Andorian sector, they came across a group of resistance fighters. These were not ordinary rebels. They were a coalition of various alien species who had grown disillusioned with Andorian tyranny. Among them was Corin, a former Andorian officer who had defected and now led the resistance. Corin's motivations were complex. He had once been a loyal servant of the Andorian Empire, but had grown increasingly disgusted by their methods and the suffering they inflicted upon other races. His knowledge of Andorian tactics and technology made him an invaluable asset to the Resistance. The encounter was tense. Terry and his team had to convince Corran and his allies that they were not a threat, but rather fellow survivors in need of help. After a series of negotiations and demonstrations of trust, Corran agreed to assist them in their quest. With Corran's help, Terry and his team gained access to valuable intelligence on Andorian patrol routes, supply depots, and other strategic locations. This information proved crucial in evading detection and gaining access to previously inaccessible cryo facilities. The Resistance fighters were skilled and resourceful, providing support in terms of supplies, navigation, and combat. They also shared their knowledge of the Andorian Empire's inner workings, giving Terry and his team a better understanding of their adversaries. Corran, in particular, became a key figure in the mission. His expertise in Andorian technology allowed him to help reverse engineer their systems, providing insights into how to disable or bypass their security measures. This newfound knowledge was instrumental in locating and accessing additional cryo facilities. Despite the growing alliance, tensions remained. The Resistance fighters had their own goals and agendas, and there were occasional clashes over priorities and strategies. But as they worked together, they forged a bond of mutual respect and cooperation. They all shared a common enemy and a common goal: to reclaim the galaxy from the Andorian oppressors. With the combined efforts of Terry, his team, and the Resistance fighters, they continued their search, uncovering more cryo facilities and reviving additional survivors. Each discovery brought new hope and new challenges, but they remained determined to succeed. The rising threat. As Terry and his allies made progress in their mission, the Andorians grew increasingly aware of the threat posed by the revived human resistance. Their intelligence operations detected unusual activity in previously dormant sectors, and they began to redouble their efforts to eliminate any remaining human strongholds. The Andorian Empire's response was swift and brutal. They launched a series of targeted assaults on the locations where Terry and his team had been active, hoping to crush any resistance before it could gain momentum. The attacks were devastating, causing significant losses among the newly awakened survivors and their allies. Terry and his team faced mounting pressure as they struggled to stay one step ahead of the Andorian forces. Their missions became more dangerous, and the need for secrecy and caution grew more urgent. They had to adapt their strategies constantly, employing guerrilla tactics and deception to avoid direct confrontation with the Andorian fleet. Despite the challenges, they continued to uncover and revive additional cryo facilities. Each new facility brought with it a mix of hope and desperation. The survivors they awakened were a diverse group, each with unique skills and knowledge that could contribute to the fight against the Andorians. One of the most significant discoveries was the awakening of Dr. Simon Lee, a renowned strategist and military tactician. His expertise provided valuable insights into Andorian tactics and strategies, helping Terry and his team refine their approach and plan more effective operations. As the resistance grew in strength, the Andorians became increasingly aggressive. They began launching large-scale operations to root out and eliminate any remnants of humanity. Their tactics included planetary bombardments, mass arrests, and other forms of brutal repression. In response, Terry and his allies launched a series of counter-operations targeting Andorian supply lines and communication networks. These attacks were designed to disrupt the Andorian Empire's ability to coordinate its efforts and provide relief to the beleaguered human colonies. The growing conflict came to a head during a dramatic confrontation on a remote asteroid base. The base was a key strategic location for the Andorians, and Terry and his team planned a daring assault to capture it and use it as a staging ground for further operations. The assault was a high-risk, high-reward operation. Terry's team, along with their resistance allies, fought their way through the base's defenses, facing fierce resistance from Andorian troops. The battle was intense, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. But with their combined skills and determination, Terry's team eventually succeeded in capturing the base. The victory at the asteroid base was a turning point. It provided the Resistance with a new base of operations and a valuable strategic advantage. The captured base allowed them to launch more ambitious operations and coordinate their efforts more effectively. However, the victory came at a cost. The battle had drawn significant attention from the Andorians, and they responded with increased aggression. The Resistance now faced the daunting challenge of defending their new base while continuing their mission to locate and revive more cryo facilities. The hidden key. As the Resistance consolidated their gains and continued their fight against the Andorian Empire, Terry and his team made a groundbreaking discovery. Deep within the captured asteroid base, they uncovered a hidden chamber containing a long-lost piece of technology, an ancient data archive. The archive held a wealth of information about pre-war human technology, including advanced cryosystems, weaponry, and starship designs. It also contained detailed records of human settlements and cryo facilities, some of which were believed to be lost or destroyed. The discovery was a game-changer. With the information from the archive, Terry and his team were able to locate several more cryo facilities that had been previously unknown. These facilities held the promise of additional survivors and valuable resources. Among the most significant findings was a prototype cryosystem developed during the early days of the Andorian invasion. This system was far more advanced than the standard cryo chambers, offering enhanced preservation and revival capabilities. It was a crucial asset that could greatly increase the chances of successful revivals. Dr. Simon Lee, the strategist, was instrumental in analyzing the data from the archive. His insights into the Andorian Empire's strategies and weaknesses allowed the Resistance to plan more effective operations and countermeasures. The Resistance launched a series of coordinated missions to secure the newly discovered cryo facilities. Each mission was a complex operation involving careful planning, stealth, and precision. The Andorians were on high alert, and the risk of detection was ever present. One of the most daring operations was the retrieval of a cryo facility located on a heavily fortified Andorian research station. The facility was hidden within the station's complex, making it a difficult target. But with the information from the archive, Terry and his team devised a plan to infiltrate the station and retrieve the cryopods. The operation was a success, though it came at a significant cost. The team faced fierce resistance from Andorian guards, and several members were injured or killed. But their efforts paid off, and they managed to secure the cryopods and evacuate the facility. The revived survivors from the research station included engineers, scientists, and military personnel who had been cryogenically frozen in secret. Their expertise and knowledge were invaluable assets to the Resistance. They quickly integrated into the effort, contributing their skills to the ongoing fight against the Andorians. The increasing success of the Resistance operations began to shift the balance of power. The Andorians, though still formidable, were facing mounting pressure from the revitalized human forces. The tide of the conflict was turning, and the Andorian Empire was starting to feel the strain. Terry and his team continued their relentless pursuit of the remaining cryo facilities, driven by the knowledge that every survivor they revived was a step closer to rebuilding humanity's place in the galaxy. The fight was far from over, but they were determined to see it through to the end, the dawn of a new era. With the Resistance gaining ground and the Andorian Empire facing increasing pressure, the final phase of the struggle began. Terry and his team, now bolstered by a growing number of survivors and allies, prepared for a decisive confrontation with their oppressors. The strategic advantage gained from the captured asteroid base and the information from the ancient data archive allowed them to plan a series of coordinated assaults on key Andorian strongholds. The goal was to cripple the Andorian command structure and disrupt their ability to wage war effectively. The culmination of their efforts was a daring assault on the Andorian homeworld itself. The mission was the most ambitious of their campaign, and it required meticulous planning and coordination. The Resistance forces, now a diverse coalition of humans and alien allies, mobilized for the final battle. The assault was launched in a multi-pronged attack, with forces striking at key targets across the Andorian homeworld. Terry and his team led one of the main offensives, targeting the Andorian High Command's headquarters. The battle was fierce and brutal. The Andorian forces, though caught off guard, fought back with relentless determination. The resistance forces pressed on, driven by the hope of freedom and the desire to end the Andorian tyranny once and for all. As the battle raged on, Terry and his team fought their way to the heart of the Andorian command center. They faced heavy resistance, but were fueled by their resolve and the knowledge that their actions would determine the future of humanity. In a dramatic climax, Terry and his team confronted the Andorian High Command. The confrontation was intense, with both sides fighting with everything they had. But the determination and unity of the resistance forces ultimately prevailed. The fall of the Andorian High Command marked a turning point. The Empire's command structure was in disarray, and their forces began to crumble. The resistance seized the opportunity to push forward, liberating key territories and securing a path for the remaining Andorian forces to retreat. The victory on the Andorian homeworld signaled the dawn of a new era. With the fall of the Andorian Empire, the galaxy was liberated from its oppressive rule. The surviving Andorians were given a chance to rebuild their society in a way that would promote peace and cooperation. Terry and his team, along with the revived survivors, began the monumental task of rebuilding. They worked to restore the shattered human colonies and integrate the diverse alien species that had supported their cause. The galaxy, once a place of conflict and suffering, began to heal. The legacy of their struggle was one of resilience and hope. The sacrifices made by Terry, his team, and countless others ensured that humanity had a future in the stars. The Kreia facilities that had once been symbols of despair now stood as beacons of renewal. As Terry looked out at the stars, he felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. The fight had been long and arduous, but it had paved the way for a brighter future. Humanity was no longer on the brink of extinction. It was poised to thrive once again. The galaxy, once overshadowed by tyranny and oppression, was now a place of opportunity and promise. The story of the resistance and the struggle against the Andorian Empire would be remembered as a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity and the power of unity. And as the first light of a new dawn broke over the galaxy, Terry knew that the future was full of possibilities. The legacy of their fight would endure, and humanity's place among the stars would be forever secured.